Miami, a city built on sun, sand, and secrets.
It became the backdrop for one of the largest financial frauds in recent history.
A $150 million Ponzi scheme built on the glitter of synthetic diamonds.
The FBI has moved to seize assets and close the case on the man known as the Diamond Ring King.
Today, AI Crime Watch exposes the anatomy of the collapse.
This is the story of a lifestyle built on illusion and immense greed.
A facade of legitimacy designed specifically to lure high-net-worth investors.
He stole over $150 million, using new investments to pay off the old ones.
Federal charges have now been unsealed, marking the start of a massive prosecution.
This is the case of the Diamond Ring King, and this is how the scheme came tumbling down.
The scheme was classic Ponzi, the fundamental fraud built on trust and the promise of astronomical returns.
The Diamond King's success relied entirely on using new investor money to pay off the interest owed to the oldest ones.
His vehicle for deception diamonds. A symbol of permanence and security.
He promised guaranteed profits from lucrative sales of high-quality synthetic diamonds.
The truth was, the sales were fabricated, and the diamonds were either worthless or non-existent.
Every document, every appraisal, and every certificate of authenticity was a sophisticated forgery.
The king excelled at the initial pitch, leveraging trust to get investors to hand over millions.
The initial investors saw massive, unbelievable returns, all funded by the money of their successors.
He convinced his victims that their investment was safe, secure, and government verified.
The cycle accelerated. Each new investor was simply funding the illusion for the one before them. The victims, blinded by greed, often brought in their own friends and family members, expanding the damage.
The vast majority of the money, however, was diverted directly to fund the king's extravagant lifestyle.
He managed the Ponzi machine through a complex, obfuscated network of shell corporations.
The mounting debt, hidden behind the glittering facade, was destined to become unsustainable. But the FBI was already watching, tracking the anomalies in his financial footprint.
The ticking clock of the Ponzi scheme was running out of time and new money.
The final collapse of the Diamond Ring King's empire was now imminent.
The trap was set, waiting for the final moment to close the case, codenamed Operation Diamond Dust. The king lived a life few could imagine, a public display of wealth that justified the massive returns.
His personal vault was filled with assets, not just cash, but tangible objects to flaunt his supposed success.
His massive yacht became the ultimate symbol of his success and the primary destination for the stolen capital.
Money was never an object. His spending was reckless, a financial wildfire that needed constant fuel.
Properties across the state were acquired using illicit funds, often transferred through complex offshore entities.
But the world of illusion was about to collide with the reality of federal law.
The sudden halt of new investments meant the promise of returns had to be broken.
As the scheme faltered, the king began desperate maneuvers, meeting with figures known to the Federal Bureau.
The final realization for the investors was brutal. Their fortunes were gone, replaced by worthless synthetic stones.
The arrest warrant was issued, and Operation Diamond Dust moved to its execution phase.
Federal agents swarmed the Miami residence in a pre-dawn raid.
The lifestyle, once a symbol of success, was now evidence of fraud.
The king's vault was breached, and his secrets exposed to the light.
Inside, agents found stacks of cash, fake certificates, and the true extent of the Ponzi scheme.
The king's reign had ended. He was arrested on massive fraud and wire fraud charges.
The man who promised everlasting wealth was now staring at a life sentence behind bars.
The Diamond Ring King had exchanged his yacht for a concrete cell.
The collapse was immediate and devastating for hundreds of victims across the country.
Retirement funds were wiped out. Life savings evaporated. For many, the result was utter financial ruin. The illusion of the circular payment system finally broke, revealing the black hole underneath.
The victims were left with nothing but worthless paper and synthetic stones.
The emotional toll was immense. Friends turned on friends, and families were torn apart by the scheme.
The elderly and the vulnerable, seeking secure retirement, were the primary targets.
The total loss is estimated to exceed $150 million.
The government's case is centered on wire fraud, mail fraud, and money laundering.
The federal prosecutor has vowed to seek the maximum sentence and the greatest possible restitution for the victims.
The FBI successfully seized millions in assets, including the yacht and multiple properties.
These assets will now be liquidated to form a restitution fund.
A massive class action lawsuit is also underway, seeking to recover additional damages from financial institutions.
Victims gathered daily outside the courthouse, hoping to witness justice and regain some portion of their losses.
For many, the recovery process will take years, and the financial scars may never fully heal.
The pursuit of justice must now balance the scale tipped by greed.
The king will face the victims of his fraud in a dramatic series of sentencing hearings.
Prosecutors are expected to recommend a minimum of 20 years in federal prison.
A judgment that aims to deliver a message. White-collar crime will be met with severe consequences.
The Diamond King has traded his life of luxury for a number, a prisoner of his own greed.
The system may have been exposed, but the damage remains.
The king's scheme may have ended, but the methods of fraud are evolving.
Scammers are moving from tangible assets like diamonds to the decentralized world of cryptocurrency and digital tokens.
The fight against financial fraud must adapt, or these invisible threats will only multiply.
For investors, the lesson remains. Skepticism is the only insurance against dazzling promises.
As we close this case file, we turn the question back to you, the viewer.
What do you think is the best way to stop the spread of these new digital Ponzi schemes?
This is AI Crime Watch. Subscribe for the latest in crime intelligence.